Okay, start over.
We'll call this meeting of April the 6th, 2023 of the Planning Commission to order. Roll call.
Mike Dunham, Danny Ragsdale,
Yes.
Cheryl Glancy,
Yes.
Gina Alvis Watts, Travis Malord.
Yes.
We have a quorum. Item 2, discussion and possible action to approve minutes of December 8th, 2022, regular meeting.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes for December 8, 2022.
Second?
We have a,
We need to see who was here
yeah, that might help.
Yeah.
to
I was sure thinking I was.
approve those. So we had Mike, Danny, Cheryl, Gina, and Travis. We had y'all here, so we're good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. Call for a vote.
Ragsdale,
Yes.
Glancy,
Yes.
Malord,
Yes.
The motion passes. Approved. Item 3, presentation of the Guide for Growth 2023 initiative for Pryor Creek by Major Larry Lees.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This guide for growth that you have in front of you, the reason I wanted to present this to you is because you are a planning and zoning commission, and this is planning information that was gifted to us by Mid-America Industrial Park. Because the park understands that there's a potential for large growth at some point in time, about a year ago, they set in place a consultant who started communicating with all of the city, the one city and the other towns in Mays County, and they're calling that the Four Corners. So Pryor and Choteau and Los Grove, Salina, Adair, and Langley. So a year ago, they started having city meetings with these communities. This guide for growth is similar to a comprehensive plan, but it's not really that extensive for us. When they did this guide for growth for each individual city or each individual community, if the community had a comprehensive plan, they would take the comprehensive plan and they would take things from the comprehensive plan and make sure that the guide for growth matched that plan. So the city of Pryor Creek is the only one who had a comprehensive plan of all those towns. So if I could ask you to go to the contents page there, there's about 3 pages in. You can see that from the introduction, the overview and the context, the purpose in the guides, the importance of anticipating guiding growth, benefits of the growth, and the development guides. And so those are the standards that they've used in doing this body of work. The planning process, they've done community visioning, they've done goals and objectives. And we'll look at those here in a minute, and you see that they've done some demographic work, not only with Mays County, but also with Pryor, and we'll look at some of that as well. So going on into, if I could draw your attention over to page, and I'm gonna be respectful of your time, Cheryl. Okay, so going over to page 5. The purpose of the guides, at the top of that, actually that's page 4, it says the purpose of the Four Corners Guides for Growth is to help the 6 communities in Mays County Four Corners region, Adair, Choteau, Langley, Los Grove, Pryor, and Salina, prepare for growth, particularly in response to new developments within Mid-America Industrial Park. These developments offer great potential for new jobs and higher paying jobs and for residents in these communities. By the way, Canoe announced yesterday that they would be putting in a facility to build batteries, and that's starting this year. They'll bring about 100 jobs in this year, and by next year they will have another 100 jobs on site. So that's people moving to community. They may not all live in Pryor. Some of them may live in surrounding areas. But that's part of the growth that Mid-America Industrial Park is talking about. Look on page 5 where it says comprehensive planning. So, Cheryl, I know that you are very aware of some of these things because of your experience, but I'll go through this. While comprehensive plans are not required by state law in Oklahoma, when adopted, these plans are considered an official guide document for future land use and development of communities. So in Oklahoma, comprehensive plans are often developed through a collaborative process with community officials and government entities, and are reviewed and adopted by either or both the planning and county commission, the planning groups or county commissioners. This is our comprehensive plan that we developed, started developing in 2015. Mr. Doyle was on that, isn't that right, Zach? Yep. He was on that committee, and they worked very hard, what was it, over a couple of years? Yeah. To develop the thing, and it was adopted then sometime, I don't remember, but either in 2007, adopted in 2019. So
I
I
believe.
think that was early.
Or it might have been a little bit, no, I
think
was
it was
thinking the UDO was 19.
So it was in
So it's
2018,
earlier than
I
that.
believe, when it was adopted. So state planning legislation, that's Title 11, Section 43102, requires that ordinances, regulations, and zoning decisions to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So when Planning and Zoning Commission meets to consider this or that, that planning and zoning is going to be consistent with the comprehensive plan that we have adopted. So that is something that is a requirement. It says Oklahoma law establishes the scope of a comprehensive plan and establishes an establishment of building structure and land development regulations to include, among others, the following objectives: to lessen congestion in the streets, to secure safety from fire and other dangers, to promote health and general welfare, including peace and quality of life, to promote historical preservation, to facilitate the adequate provision of transportation, utilities, schools, parks, and other public requirements, and to provide reasonable consideration for the character of a district and its suitability for particular uses. So this planning process that this company did, the name of that company is listed here somewhere. Yes, Design Workshop. So what this company did is they interviewed, they did their work kind of like they were going to be doing a comprehensive plan. In the first part, we see county items or county information. On page 8, there's a statement here. It says how to use a document. The Growth and Development Guide will act as a resource for communities that wish to remain small town by showing them as important places to protect while simultaneously showing how to grow and to meet the demands of their community. The document will serve as a baseline for creating a common ground between all municipalities within the region by developing common agreement on the things of the four corners that are important to support. So because they're looking at this body of work after considering all of the different communities, they're putting this county information in here so that for the purpose of trying to draw these communities together, because we're not very far apart. We share commonality. Pryor Creek is a county seat town, but we share commonality with workforce, also in services. So if we did get a mega plant out here in the industrial park, and they're planning on at some point in time probably landing one of those, then we would change. We would change, and our community would change. And so they're trying to assist us through those changes. On page 9, the last sentence there in that partial column says the guides should be reviewed, refined, and revised on a regularly determined basis as deemed necessary by participating towns and cities. So they've done this as a help to us and to give us an example of how to do some planning with community growth. So on the next page, on page 12 and 13, on page 13, you can see the community engagement round 1. The first round of the community engagement meetings, they were held on April 21st, 2022, so about a year ago. The community engagement round 2, June 20th of 2022. Community engagement round 3, September 24, and then the community engagement round 4, November 28th of 2022. So they took information and gathered it, and they met with communities about 4 different times. The community gathering was not a large gathering. It was a small gathering here in Pryor. Jared Crisp, John Hawkins was involved in one of them. Some of our, I think Ariana Durr was involved in part of it. Dr. Mueller with our schools was involved in one of those meetings. But they tried to get an interview of our city to listen and hear from our city people what things were important for us. So on page 14, you see where it says Pryor Creek goals and objectives down there about halfway through the page. And it says support new growth with quality neighborhoods, plan for growth east and north of the city away from the floodplain areas, connect with the city and with municipal utility, Mid-America Industrial Park using trail connections to promote multimodal options for workers commuting from Pryor Creek. This is interesting that in the Mid-America Industrial Park this afternoon, there was a presentation at the Welcome Center there. You may have read about that or heard about that gave a diagram of trails that are being planned in Mid-America Industrial Park and how they connect to the county trails plan, how they connect to Pryor, how they connect to Choteau, how they connect to Locust Grove. And that's a trails plan that Mid-America Industrial Park is doing. There's a grant that has been awarded. It's a $25 million grant. And so the grant builds a trail from 69A north on Elliott Street to Pryor city limits. It actually is going to extend to 17th Street within Pryor city limits. So this is a grant that's going to be working over time, and it's consistent with our comprehensive plan, consistent with this plan for growth. So bullet item number 4 on Pryor Creek goals and objectives: create a green belt with trails within floodplain areas to connect neighborhoods with open space. Also to create gateway zone east of Pryor Creek on Highway 20 and south of Pryor Creek on North 430 road that 432 road that accesses Mid-America Industrial Park. Another goal is support downtown surrounding neighborhoods with infill housing, sidewalks, property maintenance, etc. Another bullet point, work with ODOT on access management and traffic calming strategies on Highway 20 and Highway 69, and then to create greenbelt open space and trail network within floodplain to connect neighborhoods within a distinguishing recreation element. So all that is planning speak, goals for planning speak, and that is some things that they've identified for Pryor. If You can go on through the pages there. Mays County, on page 19, you find demographic information that they found from the county. And that is interesting information. Going on through the pages, they were very interested in protecting the natural environment that we have. Over to page 24, kind of identifying the natural environments that we have. You can see the diagram of Grand River as it goes up to Langley, and how those tributaries are kind of spread out over the region. Recognizing the cultural and historical resources that we have in our area on page 28, 29. So National Registry of Historic Places, there's one in Shoto, there's one in Salina, there's one up by Langley. You can see those. The old area where Nathaniel Pryor had his trading post down there south, east of Shoto. Also recognizes the Cherokee Nation, page 32, within the county. Some of those components. Recognizes on page 34 rural and agricultural lands, and then gives some demographic data on page 36 and 37 regarding the agricultural environment that we have in our county. Talk about transportation and roads on page 38 and 39. Also talk about community and utility infrastructure on pages 42, 43. Specific to Pryor Creek, Guide for Growth on page 40, starting on page 45. It says Pryor Creek's completed and adopted its comprehensive plan in 2018. The Guide for Growth provides interim guidance relating to existing conditions, goals, and objectives, key themes, and community progress on the implementation and recommendations of future land uses, natural resources, flood mitigation, transportation options and connectivity, housing, community services, fostering regional cooperation and collaboration. So actionable strategies, those are back at the back. You can turn to page 47. There's kind of overview and context. Gives demographic information there according to the 2020 census. I was surprised by this. I thought that probably our Native American population was a little larger than 17%. I think probably it is. They took this information from the census that was taken in 2020, and personally, I'm not real confident on those statistics, but that is what has been published and what has been listed. On page 48 and 49, vision for town growth and development. These words that are down at the bottom of that page are words that were visionary words through one of those exercises. And on page 49, Mays County is poised for growth, and the Four Corners region stands to house a large portion of those growth. In order to accommodate the growth, the county at large needs to begin implementing measures, land use measurement policies, and regulations to ensure that future development patterns are reflective of the community's vision. And so as we have done quite a bit of work with the comprehensive plan over the last few years. The work that we have been done has been guided by the comprehensive plan, and it needs to be updated. It needs to be updated as time goes by, because it's a living document. This body of work gives some assistance with that. It doesn't complete an update, but it gives some assistance and guidance from the perspective of growth. Identified on page 50 some opportunities and challenges. About the fourth paragraph down, it says the key to Pryor Creek's future is the continuation of implementation of the policy recommendations from its comprehensive plan. And the city has made significant progress and is working to prioritize and fund efforts associated with downtown revitalization, infill development, and redevelopment, but it will need to continue to assess its progress. So continuing to assess is one of those things that's important, that they have identified that is important for us to do, and I certainly agree with that. Turning the page to page 53, you see the legend for the diagram 53 on page 52. It's talking about perhaps future land uses, and taking a look at the land uses that are perhaps future land uses and how they relate to our current comprehensive plan are consistent. And as we perhaps go forward through updating our comprehensive plan and being ready for some substantial growth, then taking those recommendations about the proposed parks and open spaces, about proposed mixed use, some proposed commercial, proposed new neighborhood, several proposed new neighborhoods on this recommendation, which are east and north of town. So also taking into consideration the bodies of water, the tributaries that drain through the places that are low, and proposing parks and open spaces with those areas. So I thought that was good. Turning the page to page 54 and 55, protecting our unique natural environment and mitigating floods has to be part of what we do when we grow. We saw that flooding of 2019, and that opened our eyes because we hadn't seen that kind of flooding in quite a while. But we are currently working to improve Salt Branch Creek on the north end of town, and that's a project that's ongoing. Is that your alarm?
No, it is a husband. He's gotta go away.
So some of the plans that we have put in place to mitigate flooding on Salt Branch Creek are consistent with the things that are recommended here, and also with our comprehensive plan. On page 56 and 57, talks about transportation options and connectivity, and that's some recommendations just about transportation, connectivity, having to do with sidewalks, having to do with bike lanes and such like that. The community services with city buildings, with utilities, with medical schools on page 58 and 59. And then on page 60, fostering regional cooperation and collaboration. And as I've been to many meetings at Mid-American Industrial Park, and also met with the mayors of other towns, the mayor of Choteau, the mayor of Salina, in particular, it seems to be important to them that we understand what our communities are doing in relation to the growth at Mid-America Industrial Park, because there's not any of these communities that's an island. And as we collaborate together, we're not going to have all the answers to things. You know, Shoto's not going to have all the answers to things, but as we collaborate together and cooperate, then we can all be better for it. On page 62 through 65 gives 12 different next steps and actionable strategies. And so this is implementation of these things that they've recommended. Many of those things are also implementation items that are in our comprehensive plan that we adopted several years ago. But to audit the comprehensive plan, number 2, to update corresponding plans, number 3, to update the update the comprehensive plan, to update our building codes, and we've been working on that some this week, Cheryl, to update adoption of model subdivision regulations. That was one of the things that stuck out to me, because some of the subdivisions that have been platted over the last year or two, we're using our building codes, and we're using our codes, our complete streets ordinance. We're using those things as they're platting out these developments. But some of these developments, they're going to have water features in them. They're going to have drainage features in them. They're going to have small park areas in them. And so if we adopt a model for subdivision regulations, that gives a developer an opportunity to take a look at that and it gives them a guide. It gives them a guide that should be helpful. Item 6, enforcement for vacant buildings and parcels. That's something that we need to adopt, in my opinion, and we have been having some talk and discussion about that. Item 7 on the next page, road projects. You know that we've got a stadium, football stadium. We've got a football stadium that's planned on 9th Street, and west of 9th, going west on 9th Street is County Road. On the north side of that is city limits. If we were to take Gaither Road and we were to extend that south, intersect 9th Street, and improve 9th Street, then we would have another corridor that would serve that football stadium, but also serve our baseball field that's there at the high school, would also serve our high school, would also open up potential housing in that area that's now pasture land. Right now, that land is owned by the Department of the Army, and I have had some discussions with them about that land. So that's in flux, but that's future planning. If we plan for those kind of things, then we'll perhaps be prepared to act when perhaps those lands become available. So that's so it only takes money, Randy. It only takes money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it takes is money. But when we put ourselves in a position to plan, then we have the ability then to receive grant monies from different directions that will assist all of us. Number 8, adopt NACTO street guide. So there's a national street guide to direct street standards in towns and counties. Cheryl, are you familiar with that guide?
No, I'm not sure.
So that's something that is helpful. Item 9, identify grants and funding for ongoing work program. 10, work with utility providers and municipal utility department. 11, designate service boundaries, and 12, preserve agricultural lands in environmental sensitive areas. So that is in essence an introduction to this. I thought it would be important for our Planning and Zoning Commission to be able to see this and to be able to know about it. At some point in time, hopefully we'll be updating our comprehensive plan. And as we do that, it would be good for folks for planning and zoning to be able to engage in that process. Do you have any questions for me?
To be honest, this is the first I've heard of this.
Okay,
And none of us on the planning and zoning were ever invited to it, to
Okay.
any of their meetings. So it's like getting slapped upside the head with something you don't know about.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it to your attention and dedicate some time to show you what this work is. And it's not something that we vote on to adopt.
Oh, no, not here, it's not on our
No,
agenda.
No, it's not something that we vote on to adopt. Council had it in their agenda packet, and I spoke briefly about it to council on Tuesday night. And I'll also be speaking to Economic Development Trust Authority about this on Monday. But the reason for me to do that is to let folks know what it is and how it has come about. All those meetings were daytime meetings. Most of them were started at 11 o'clock and dismissed somewhere around 12:15, 12:30, something like that. So anyway, any other questions for me about this? This is a gift from Mid-American Industrial Park. And each one of the towns has one that has the name of their town on it, specific to their town. So they used a consultant and have spent some money to be able to help us. So there you are. Anything else?
Any more questions? Thank you, Mayor Lees. Do we have any unforeseen business?
No.
Do we have a motion for adjournment, which would be item 5?
Motion.
I second.
Take the vote?
Ragsdale,
Yes.
Clancy,
Yes,
Miller.
Yes.
we are adjourned.